So it is pretty mind-blowing to know that I've been using an iPhone since 2007, since the original release, meaning I have nearly 2 decades of experience using one of these things. And throughout those years, what I've learned is that it's not really about the year-over-year spec and feature upgrades that really wow you, but it's those small nuanced details and tips and tricks that you're able to kind of discover as you use this thing on a daily basis. So in this video, I want to talk about my favorite tips and tricks of iOS and iPadOS that I've learned throughout the years that I really wish I knew years ago, and you're going to be happy that I'm mentioning them. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Before we continue, definitely consider subscribing to the channel if you enjoy videos like this one where we go over all things iOS and help us to get to 1 million subscribers here in 2026. Now let's talk about the first tip, which has to do about your home screen. Okay, so for a quick little reference, I am using an iPhone Air running iOS 26.2, but this will work on most iPhones as long as you have an up-to-date version of iOS. And I want to pull up the iPhone right here to show off exactly what we're going to go with. First category of tips and tricks is going to be all about your home screen and app management. So if you go into your home screen and go into jiggle mode, long press on your home screen, go into an assortment of applications, and if you want to move multiple applications at the same time, whether it is to create a new folder or move into another page, all you have to do is grab one of them, move it around, and then start tapping the other ones with your other finger, and then you move it around, and now you're moving 6 at the same time. You let it go, and it's going to populate your screen however you see fit. And again, if I want to bring it back to that folder, I'll just go in, long press, select all of them, open up that travel folder, drop them right in, and boom, they're in that travel folder again. And this can be done again, like I mentioned, with a bunch of different ways, a bunch of different applications, whether it's just 1 or 15 at the same time. And then another thing is when you are in that jiggle mode and you see these dots on the bottom, which are right above your actual dock, if you tap on here, you can actually hide individual screens if you want to. So for instance, I have these 2 hidden over here, but if I want to go in here and hide my home screen, I just uncheck that, then I swipe up, and now my first screen is going to be this second screen that I had before. To go back, I just long press on here, tap, press that little check mark again, and now it's visible. If I scroll over, you get to see my home screen, which is the way that I like to have it. Another one that really goes under the radar and like nobody knows about, especially day to day, is that you can now long press on applications to get additional kind of input or options when using them, especially for quick actions. So for instance, if I go into my applications, if I long press on the camera app right here, you get a bunch of different options here, like removing the app, edit the home screen, but then there are per app specific type of applications or use cases. So for instance, I can go into portrait selfie, portrait, video, or selfie mode. So if I tap on the selfie, it'll take me directly to the application and show me that I am in selfie mode. And this is not just going to be for native applications. If I want to long press maybe on Google Maps here, I get a bunch of other different kind of variables and options when it comes to quick actions for the Google Maps app. And I can even add a widget in real time and switch it from an application to widget. So if I tap on this right here, it'll then open up and give me the widget. I'll press allow, and then it shows me that widget right here. And then I can go back in here, long press, go back to just the regular app size, and it'll move it back to where it was. Let's reorganize this a little bit, move this over, move this over. So that's a good way to know how to control your home screen, your app layout, and also app management. So now the next category is going to be all about control, speed, and gestures when it comes to iOS. So let's start off with the Control Center, because the Control Center did get a nice little revamp with iOS 18 and iOS 26 and those updates, but there's a lot more that meets the eye here. Of course, we got the new updates. For example, if you long press, you now have a kind of form of jiggle mode as well, where you can edit everything, you can add a new control in here. This is all things that maybe some people know, but once you have those added in there, again, they work very similarly to how an application would work on your home screen. For example, if you want to get some more information on one of these kind of utilities, I can long press on here, and then immediately it'll open up all the different connectivity options that I need to see fit. Another good option here is in the calculator. If I long press on here, I can copy my last result. So there's a bunch of different options that happen in quick action toggles that you can take advantage of. Another one is the alarm. If I long press on the alarm, I can start a timer from here, a stopwatch, or just create an alarm as well without needing to enter the clock application and doing it from there. Another good example is if I long press on the Wi-Fi, you get to see all the different Wi-Fis that are in my area. Same thing goes for Bluetooth and AirDrops and things like that. So overall, go into your Control Center, start to long press on some of the utilities that you use on a regular basis, and you might be surprised that there's an option or a quick action that'll save you some time. Another really good one when it comes to gesture control on your iPhone is going to be that home bar and that home tab on the bottom. So if you tap on the bottom of your iPhone, you see that it starts to glow there, that little home bar. What you can do here is from the bottom of the phone, swipe left and right to go between the applications that you've been using regularly. So if you go to the left, it'll start going in order of most recent all the way to the final ones. And then you can swipe the other way to go in between those applications as well if you want to, and then just swipe up, to stop that and go from there. So that's a very quick way to switch between applications, especially if you're going between one or another. Like for instance, if I'm copying some data or an image from one application, moving it over to the other, it makes it very, very easy to go between the two and reducing multiple steps going to another application. And then another one is going to be reachability. Now, when these iPhones started getting bigger, again, we first were 3.5 inches, then 4 inches, then 4.7, 5.5, and they've been getting bigger and bigger ever since then. And once it started getting big enough, originally the 4 inches was going to be that size because that's pretty much where everybody could still reach it with one hand. And as these got bigger, these weren't really one-handable devices anymore. Even if I have the iPhone Air, you're going to want to be able to then reach that top left corner with your thumb much easier. So if you just look on your home screen and maybe swipe down from the bottom, maybe quarter or bottom third of the phone, it'll bring your phone all the way down in that layout down. You can tap whatever you see. So if I want to tap on the weather, you tap on it and then it'll go back into that full screen mode. So basically what happens here is once you take that first action when it's in reachability mode, it'll then go back to the normal mode as well. And if this doesn't work for you, make sure that it's turned on. Go into your settings, go into accessibility, go into down where it says touch, and make sure that this reachability toggle right here is turned on. If you turn this off and you start to swipe down, it won't bring the entire UI down like it showed you earlier. Now let's get into notifications and focus modes. Focus modes is one of those things that's really underrated. People don't use it a lot. I use it all the time. For instance, you can see here that I am in reduced interruption mode, which is basically like the Apple intelligence of getting everybody away without being in do not disturb mode, and it'll still let some important things through. But first, let's get into notifications and notification summaries because I think those are extremely important. So if we go into settings, go into notifications right here, you now have a scheduled summary down here. So if you click on your scheduled summary, you have the ability to set this up. So for instance, maybe you have applications where you do want to have the notifications, but they aren't pertinent to your day-to-day, right? Maybe you're working throughout the day from 9 to 5, no pun intended, but you still want to see your notifications when you wake up in the morning, and maybe those notifications at the end of the day, for example, maybe traffic or something that has to do with a hobby or something that just doesn't have to do with what you're doing on a daily basis. You can now do that by setting up scheduled summaries. So I have one at 8 a.m., one at 6 p.m. You can add as many as you want. And then you can go in here and turn on in your apps and summary which ones you want in the summary and which ones you don't want in the summary. For instance, I don't really want all the Airbnb stuff or American Express or Anchor and things like that. But maybe I do want something like my Built Rewards app or maybe the Bleacher Report one. And then you can go in here and go weekly notification average. You can see that the main ones that I have here are going to be the Nanit, Redfin, and X as well. Because again, those are ones that I get notifications for all the time in my scheduled summary. So use that to your advantage when it comes to notifications that you don't want to see all the time, but you still want to see enough where you get the information at a glance. And now let's go into focus modes, because this one, like I said, is very important. So for instance, focus modes are extremely customizable. If you want to set up a focus mode to maybe have a certain home screen or maybe block certain applications, and you can do all that as long as you just spend a little bit of time in here. So for instance, if I go into my work focus mode, you can have an intelligent breakthrough and silencing. So that's again using Apple Intelligence and things like that. But I can go in here and change all my different home screens and things like that. For example, I can customize my home screen, press edit here, and I can choose one of the multiple home screens that I've created or have one created from scratch if I want to. I can then choose which home screen I want as well as the lock screen. And then I can decide which applications I want to be available to me throughout this, especially when it comes to notifications and usability for stuff that's focused on work. And that's why it's called a work focus. So now you can use those, and then also you can set it up with people, meaning that no matter what happens, certain people can get through to you no matter what focus mode you're on. So I do recommend going in here, playing around with this, and setting up the perfect focus modes for you. And if you are just a little bit lazy and you don't want to deal with it, reduce interruptions is a great secondary option that I use all the time, where it will intelligently turn things off and on and understand what you want, who you want breaking through here. And then in combination between the control center and the focus modes, if you go into control center, long press right here, you have the ability to quickly choose between these focus modes. And then you even have these 3 dots right here that'll let you go into focus modes for an extended period of time, or at least for some sort of time. So I can turn on the test focus mode for an hour until this evening, or even location based. So when you do leave the office, it'll then go back into your personal mode or your driving mode, or just completely turn off. So now let's get into the photos and camera, because these things have gotten more and more powerful as each iteration of iOS and iPhone has come out. So the first one I want to show off here is going to be live photos. As a parent and as somebody who likes to capture as many moments as possible, live photos is an amazing thing to have, because it basically lets you take one image and it'll take a bunch of different frames and you get kind of these like snapshot videos, and then you can decide which frame is best for that photo. So I'm going to use one of these pictures right here, for instance. And the way to know if you have a live photo is going to be on this top left corner here. It'll show you this little live section. You can drop that down and you can actually customize this as you see fit. So for instance, if you want to loop it, bounce it, do a long exposure, or completely turn it off, you can do that. The way also to activate the live photo in an image is just by long pressing on the photo. You can see that that image is now moving a little bit because it's taking all those still frames at the same time. If I go in here and let's say I want to loop it, it'll then turn it into a small video that'll loop kind of like a GIF or a GIF or a meme, whatever you guys want to call it these days. So when I open it, it's always going to move like that. But now if you did take a live photo, but maybe the key frame that it's showing off here was a little bit blurry, you can go into edit right here, let it do its thing. And what you can do here is go into this live button right here. Now you can see down at the bottom, you can scrub through to decide which one of these key frames is going to be your main photo moving forward. You select the one that you like. Maybe I like this one right here because it's a little bit more shadowy. Do whatever you see fit, make it the key photo. We'll press done, and now that's going to be the main photo moving forward. Again, a cool feature that not a lot of people know about because not a lot of people are aware that live photos are taking place. And then another big one that saves me a ton of time, for instance, if I go over here, let's say I want to edit a photo, let's say I want to add this natural kind of hue over here, maybe I want to add some adjustments, maybe I want to turn this on, move it over, do something crazy, maybe the saturation through the roof and things like that. And I took a bunch of pictures kind of in the same exact lighting, just with different subjects. What I can do here now is I'll press done, and once I press done, it'll save it. I'll click on the three dots on the top right-hand corner, and I'm gonna copy those edits. Now you can decide to copy certain aspects like the style, the adjustments, make it adaptive as well, especially if you crop in. We'll press copy, and then if I go to another image, I can then tap on those three dots again, paste those edits, and now it's pasting the edits on this photo. And what's nice about this is that I can actually select a few images like this, tap on the three dots, paste the edits on all those images, and all those images will now have all those edits, as you can see that it is loading and doing its thing. So overall, I love this feature. It makes my life so much easier. And you can see that all those images are now loaded up with the same exact edits. And then the last thing in the Photos application that's gotten extremely powerful over the years is the search button. As you guys can see, I have over 43,000 things inside of my photo library, which is absolutely insane. So finding what I need in the moment can be pretty tough. And another thing that I like to do here is with my Sony camera, I plug it directly into my iPhone, and when I take images with the Sony camera, they get imported directly into the iPhone, into the photo library. And a great way to search is based on the metadata. So if I go into the search button and I type in Sony, type in the Sony 6100, all this is in the metadata, so all the images here have been taken on that Sony camera, and they're much easier to find moving forward. And now this works in a bunch of different ways. For instance, if I want to just type in dog, because again, they're using Apple Intelligence, you can see that a dog shows up. If there's any text or any phone numbers or any people even, you'll be able to search based on that as well. So use the search button, use it to your heart's delight, and you can find a lot of powerful things, even down to, let's say if you want to search for a receipt, it'll show receipts right here that I've taken over the years if I need to find one. So again, super powerful tool. Okay, so this next category is all about the keyboard, text, and input methods because, yes, of course, you can just go in, let's say into your notes application and type out whatever you want. You know, we'll go in here, we'll say hello, sub to the channel, and it's all pretty normal. But there's a couple of ways to actually interact with your keyboard by default that isn't advertised by Apple and that makes your life a little bit easier. The first one is that you can actually swipe the text. Now, you either love this or you hate this. I've actually gotten used to it, so you could say hello just by swiping over there. And of course, when you have a double letter like LL and hello, you just kind of hover your finger over the L a little bit more, and you do get used to it after some time. So you can say, how are you doing? And you can see there is a little bit of a typo there. But again, you have that ability directly from the native keyboard. And then that's a perfect little segue into the ability to reformat or actually go back and edit your text. There's a couple ways here. The first one, which is the traditional one, right, is if you long press on the cursor, you get the magnifier. The magnifier over here has been added to iOS 26, and it's all liquid glassified and things like that, but we've had some version of this for years. Another way to interact with the text if you need to make an edit, this is actually much more helpful if you need to make an edit within an actual word to get a little bit more precise. You long press on the space bar, and now the whole kind of space bar, including the keyboard, turns into almost like a mouse input. And you can see how this works. You go around here, I can go there and go back and fix that text edit. So this happens anywhere where you have the keyboard functionality and your text editing. So it can be your messages, your notes, a Word document, whatever the case may be, you have that ability to do that natively from your keyboard. And then going back to the gesture controls that we have on the iOS and iPadOS side, you have your 3-finger gesture controls. So for instance, if you want to copy and paste something, normally you would double tap on a word and then you get the ability to cut, copy, and paste. But another way to do this is you take your 3 fingers and you tap on the screen, and then you get the same cut, copy, paste on that top. You can see that you can cut it with the scissors, copy it, and then paste it as well. But then you also have your undo and redo buttons. So first you can do a cut, so we'll cut that out. Then of course you can tap, press paste, and then you're doing it that way with your 3-finger gestures. But now if you want to undo, you take those same 3 fingers, swipe over to the left, that's to undo, and then swipe to the right, that's going to redo that. So again, more gestures, much easier to control. And if you're somebody who likes to use your phone two-handed, or if you have a larger phone like a Pro Max phone, or even the iPhone Air, this is extremely helpful. And the last text one that's been around for a very long time as well, but a lot of people really just aren't aware of this, and it's going to be text replacement. So if you go into your settings, we're going to show you exactly how to do this. Go into your settings, go into General, go into your keyboard, go into where it says text replacement, and then you can see here that there is a bunch of text replacement examples that I've set over the years. So you can type in FRS, it'll type out my name. So instead of being auto-corrected to something else, it'll be auto-corrected, quote unquote, to whatever text replacement you created. So you can see that OMW is on my way. You can do this also for your email or a phone number or whatever the case may be. So as an example, if I go OMW, you can see that instead of trying to correct itself to some other word, maybe like one or something like that, it's actually going to do on my way because that's a text replacement. Another example is FRS, text replacement to my name. So again, you can use this. This is extremely powerful and makes your life a lot easier. And the last few here have to be more so like power features and things that you just aren't aware that you can do. So for instance, let's go back into our photo library, and let's say I want to grab a couple of these photos and send them to a different application. What you can do here is actually long press on one of the photos, and you can see that I'm pulling it around. Same way that you would do it with the app icons like we did in the very beginning, I have 4 photos now on here, and I can actually swipe up with my other finger, go to the Notes application, and actually drop them right in here, and then it'll populate it in the Notes application. It took a second, but now all those photos are in the Notes application. This can also be done if you want to send something via messages. So if you do the same thing, you drag and drop it, open up the Messages app and put it into the text editor, it'll drop those photos into the Messages app, which is something that's absolutely amazing. And now the last one I want to show off is a little bit more of a niche situation. So as you can see here, if I go into my lock screen, you can see at the bottom right hand corner isn't the camera icon. It's actually a kind of sun icon, and this is to reduce the white point balance. Now, by default, if you go into the lowest brightness, for me, in my situation where I'm in a pitch black room and I'm putting my kids to sleep and I still like to check my phone on occasion, that low level brightness in pitch black is still too bright and it keeps my kids awake. So one thing to do is to reduce your white point balance. So what you do here is go into settings, go to accessibility, go to display and text size, and then scroll down to where it says reduce white point. So you can reduce the intensity of bright colors. So if I tap it on here, you might not be able to tell from the screen recording, but the screen has gotten dimmer, and you can even go on this slider and change it even more. So at 100% to reduce the dim brightness and go all the way down, this screen is basically pitch black in a bright environment, as you may or may not be able to see, but I'm going to turn that off for now. And my shortcut is that in my lock screen, if I just press on that, it's going to reduce that brightness for me, which is extremely helpful if you need to be in pitch black situations when you still want to use your phone. So the more you know. But that will just about do for this video, everybody. Hopefully you learned at least 1 or 2 things out of here that you can take and use in your everyday life. These are just things that I've learned over the years that I wish I knew sooner, and I wish I knew when I first got an iPhone. A lot of these settings have been around for years, and it took me a while to realize that they were available and easy for me to use and actually learn how to use and implement in my day-to-day while using the phone. So let me know in the comment down below what you think. Did you learn something new? Is there something in here that was missing that I maybe should add to a future one? We're gonna do the same thing for another video, maybe for the iPad side or maybe for the Mac side, so leave some suggestions down below. But if you made it to the end, leave a little dolphin. Everything will be linked down below as well as in terms of how to do this, and we'll probably write an article about it that I'll link to below as well. And if you guys wanna watch more videos like this one, like what Chase is doing with the Apple Card, or maybe how to use iMessage a little bit more professionally, click on one of these videos right here. Until next time, I'm Fernando. Peace, everyone.